Good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Hey, what's up? This is Brian Kuzmar with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals in beautiful Lauderdale by the Sea. Little blustery and beautiful. Supposed to get some big surf tomorrow. Probably too blown out to surf. Some of you remember I am a surfer, besides other things I do. Okay, what a crazy, crazy week as far as silver goes, man. Gold kind of just doing its own thing, but silver just whacked out crazy. Candlestick last night almost before the COMEX market shut it down. Apparently computer problems, I guess. We'll get more into that a little bit, and some thoughts on that by a couple people, including myself. And first, let's kind of get into market prices here. What are we doing? And why do I have 5 for 5 up here? Well, because we made a $5 move pretty quick. And if you've been following my videos for quite some time, hey, what can you buy for $5? Hey, you get a KFC $5 meal. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by KFC. Wish I was, but not sponsored by KFC. But I just kind of an idea. I mean, 1 ounce of silver just went up $5. You could buy a KFC bucket, a chicken bucket or something like that for $5, just to make my point. But very quickly, I mean, take a look at what we're looking at on Friday. Now, this is Thanksgiving. Yesterday, U.S. markets were closed, but all indications were that the closing on Wednesday was up on silver prices. Gold as well, but we're going to focus on silver today because I should platinum as well because, man, platinum, which once was the redheaded stepchild of metals, is doing very well. And palladium, which I know nothing about, take a look at that. But let's stick with silver since most of us own silver. Very few of us own the other two metals, as well as they're doing. And probably should have. I mean, I bought platinum at $900. Here I go. I digress. And if you've been following my videos, I was like telling guys, please buy platinum at these levels, $790 or as low as the high sevens, eights, nines, even $1,000 platinum. And here we are. I mean, that's a damn good return in a short period of time. But they're all doing well. They're all doing well. Okay, back to silver, $56.15. I'm going to do a quick refresh on this, and let's see what that looks like. Whenever you see me do this, you can see the little button. I'm making sure I recorded because I have forgot to hit the record video button on some videos here, and I don't edit anything. It's just straight through. Obviously, all the goofs and mistakes I make, but. And the what I do, and sipping coffee. But 56.24 updated again. Look at 56.36 the high, and 53.38 is kind of where we started yesterday. Last night just started blowing through. So, folks, I mean that's a 1 ounce of silver. Again, that's a bucket of chicken there at KFC overnight. That's a good return. A bucket of chicken for sure. And where are we at with gold? Let's just talk about gold because 54.56 up. Let's look at that spread, 41.55, 42.12. Gold just chugging away, doing its thing. If you watch yesterday's video, man, that's kind of strange. I did two videos in a row. Maybe I'm back to my 5 days. No, I don't think so. But look at gold, 42.11, which reminds me, I have not done a ratio here for quite some time. And let me see if I can rely on this horrible, I don't know why Apple uses chat or whoever it is, chat GTPT. Okay, give me 1 second here. 4,211.72 divided by 56.24 equals. There you go, folks. Wow. What a gold to silver ratio, $74.88. Basically, let's just round it up a little bit, 75 to 1. I mean, we're a long ways off to that when silver was a laggard there for a little bit. Sub $45 silver, sub 40 and sub $35 silver was a laggard, sitting up in that 100 plus 1 to ratio. And now look where we're at, 75. So I don't think the ratio matters much right now. I think, gold is headed into a whole different territory. I mean, look, 42. I mean, we're going to go back and beat the highs. I forget what those were. By the way, I am live here at my store in the corner, so you'll hear all kinds of sports cars, but I forget what that was. Probably a Dodge. You'll hear Ferraris go by. We get a lot of those here. All right. So as I was saying, I don't think the ratios makes a big difference here. 74, 75 to 1. Silver's off to its own thing. Gold's doing very well. It's off to its own thing. I mean, I don't think, we're going to see $5,000 silver. I believe that's a given. I don't think anyone thinks if or maybe or, the question is when, and this, and again, so with silver, I don't think you haven't heard me like when silver has been breaking these. They're not highs, by the way. These are highs on a number basis. Like $50 silver was our high. We've broken the $50 number. But these CPI adjusted, don't forget, I've said it many times, $72 to beat the 2012 high of 50, and 1980, $195 CPI adjusted silver. For us, so if you want to fairly compare the price of silver at $50 to our past highs, you have to factor in the CPI. Remember, I'm using the official CPI to come up with these numbers. All right. The official CPI says we need to beat $195 to beat that $50 1980 silver. And 1980 silver was a really dynamic market. However, I am seeing parallels, and I was there. I was working with my father in the store in 1977 when I started as a young lad. I truly mean that. High school, if that. So I've been around, but this market is eerily kind of similar in well, no, it's all right. Let me not go there. That's a whole different. I could really jump down rabbit holes here. But 56.24. Let's do an update here. Gosh, it's just moving as we speak. 56.39. Wow. Yeah, exactly, folks. I mean, wow. I mean, what $3 move. So silver is like on its own now. It's I think $5 increments is what I've always said. That silver moves in these $5 ranges, and I have proof and evidence of this because I've followed these markets day to day, minute to minute, sometimes well, not minute to minute, but day to day, and I'm looking at the screen constantly because this is what I do for a living. And I've done this for years, and I noticed patterns. And pattern was $5 increments. Silver moving that 5 to 10, 5 to 10, 5 to 10, and 10 to 15, 10 to 15, 10 to 15, and then 15 to 20, and again, $10 never to be seen again. But we did again. Remember, 2012 market was really interesting, and that just kind of like shot straight up. Kind of what we're seeing here too, the straight up move. But the dynamics are so much different, I believe. The dynamics in 1980 were the Hunt brothers cornering the silver market. Are there similarities between that and today? Yes, there are some similarities. The silver market probably is being cornered by a lot of different people, stackers, and there's some big ones out there, but stackers aren't the really ones doing this. Stackers represent such a small, when I say stackers, I mean retail investors in gold and silver bars, physical, tangible bars, not ETFs and stuff. We can have an impact on the market because the market is fairly thin, I think, and there's not a lot of product out there. Why is silver at 56.39? Way overdue. Way overdue in so many different ways. And again, these $5 increments I've been talking about, again, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 30 to 35, very slowly, 35 seemed to be that mark, that we were having a hard time hurdling over after 2020, when the silver squeeze kicked in. And 35 was that tough mark. And remember, we did tumble back down to sub 20s there for a little while, but we made that $5 increment march. It just like controlled. You know what I mean? These markets are controlled. I'm going to get into that in a moment in a article I did on X here. I'm a firm believer that these things have moved in $5 increments. But once we hit that 35 plus mark, if 40 came pretty quick, 45 came even quicker, 50. And I mean, it's just blowing through these marks. And again, I'm not surprised. I'm not doing videos every day acting how surprised I am about the price of gold and silver. And excuse me, I need a sip of coffee here. Wet my whistle a little bit. So I'm not surprised, though. So I'm not jumping up and down. I'm not doing a big deal about $50 silver. This is way overdue, in my opinion. And we're blowing through those $5 increments pretty fast, which tells me we're in a different level right now. We're in that $56 level. Could we see $50 silver? Sure. Could we see sub $50 silver? Sure. Are we going to see 45 or sub 45 or sub 40? Sub 40, I just absolutely don't think you'd ever see. And if we did see some kind of flash crash in the markets in silver, and we went down to like that Mark 40, you wouldn't be able to buy silver. Nobody would. It wouldn't be available. That would just be some kind of a digital. Maybe the COMEX computers got froze up again, or didn't have enough freezing, or something. Whatever happened today. Like I say, we're going to get into it. All right. Happy meals, happy. We're all happy. Just the facts. That's what I try to do. Just the facts, man. That's all I'm interested in, facts. So listen, if you ever find that I might be off or you got some thoughts on this, put it in the comment section. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as well. All right, Vince, BBL, and Arcadia Economics with Chris Marcus. They do a great job assessing markets. I'm not going to get into their video here. There he is. But take a look if on videos. Look for Arcadia Economics. They do some great. Chris and Vince do some great stuff out there. And one of the things that was talked about this morning, I think Vince said he was supposed to take the day off, and I figured I was going to take the day off again. 2 videos in a row for me. Whew, that's rare lately. Vince is talking about what happened last night, and COMEX goes down, the Sparks Gold and Silver flash crash. All right, what happened basically last night, and let me see if I can find any stories on this. Hang on, actually, X is a good place to look, and you know what? This is going to be a long video. My editor's out of town. I just realized that. He's going to have a hard time downloading this. All right, let me see here. Where are we? X flash crash. Hang on, not X. I'm not looking for X here. I'm looking for, second here, Zero Hedge. Usually they'll do stories. What's going on in the economy? And oddly enough, I don't see it here. Gold breaks out, silver explodes, volatility, fentanyl. Okay, I'm surprised. Actually, usually they'll have that article out there. But okay, make a long story short, Vince talks about last night the COMEX computers went down. There was no trading really that many people could do because there was no price discovery in the futures market. Futures markets for silver were basically boom. I think I'm not sure if it was all markets, but pretty much silver was done. And it's just so coincidental. There are some things that were mentioned out there, and I think Vince and other people alluded to. It's just so coincidental that silver was just flying high last night, and the computers just happened to crash because of some cooling issue they had, which sounds kind of silly to me. I guess it could happen. I'm not sure. I mean, we'll find out. Maybe we won't. But maybe it was Plan B, which I mentioned by COMEX. Silver was going so high, they said, okay, man, we can't just say, hey, we're going to shut it down because it's too high. We're going to make an excuse. It's Plan B, a computer problem. So, again, I'm going over the edge here. That may not be true, but that's what happened last night, which was kind of scary for a lot of traders because all of a sudden traders had, the COMEX dominates out there at price discovery. We are price discovery. And I'm going to get into something interesting about price discovery as well. And price discovery was broken last night, so this really put a lot of paper markets in alarm. Hedging, all this kind of stuff. And by the way, options on silver. Very thin right now for you guys that do options. Take a look. Very hard right now. In fact, I'm not even sure you can trade very well in options right now. Again, market I don't understand well, but some of you may. Just wanted to mention that. But the COMEX went down last night. Silver, I guess, had a flash crash because it went straight up candlestick that right before it got shut down and then back down. But here we are again, $56 silver jumping back up. Good article by BBL. Vince, BBL actually on X. That's where you'll find him. But Arcadia Economics, they do some really good stuff. All right. Boy, I said that 3 or 4 times today. That's how good their stuff is. Need to say it 3 or 4 times. All right, but those of you who know me for a long time know I can be somewhat redundant. All right, I wrote an article on X. Yeah, I like to write stuff, and and here we go. I talked about the commodity wars, and this is what's happening right now, folks. We are at war, economics are wars too. And they can hurt as much. Well, maybe not. When people are dying, it's a different story. But we're at an economic war, and primarily with China right now, and the BRICS nations, I guess you can say. And I have talked about this so many times over the years in my videos. You know this. I've talked about the weaponization of the U.S. dollar not before anybody, but before it really was mainstream, and what that was going to cause BRICS nation. I was talking about weaponization of the U.S. dollar before the BRICS was even established, if you go back and you watch some of my videos or thereabouts, all right? And and what that would cause, and also the credibility of COMEX, being questioned, and now we call it CRIMEX. And after things like last night, even a lot of big experts are out there starting to. All right, here comes. I am right around the corner from the fire department, and even a lot of big experts are saying, "Hey, listen, for years and years, guys like myself, Ted Butler, a lot of others, been saying, there's criminality going on. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in silver markets because it's such a small market, easy to see somewhat or figure out." And for years, people called us conspiracist theory. You're a bunch of conspiracists. Of course, there's no crime going on at the COMEX. But you know what, folks? The credibility meter is at zero with COMEX, even with people that once said those kind of things. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, that kind of thing. They're even, and if they're not saying it, they're just shutting the fuck up right now because they were dead wrong. All right, anyways. And I've also talked about, if you remember in the past, that whoever controls commodity prices, United States, we have controlled commodity prices for years. How do you think that we've had such a great economic life? Cheap oil, cheap silver, cheap gold, cheap all this stuff. It's always been cheap for us, all right? Maybe not so much for other countries, and because we weaponize it as well. What we made the mistake on is weaponizing the dollar. Most people would never wrap their heads around that we weaponized commodities years and years ago, back in the 70s or something, with COMEX, which I believe was nothing more than just an idea to, again, control commodities. I can go down some deep rabbit holes there that are conspiratorial, but I'm not going to. So here, let me get into this. Commodity wars, mastering tangible assets, prices to dominate the global economy. This is a war, folks. Whomever controls the pricing of tangible physical commodities like silver controls the world economically. Tangible commodities are money. Whomever controls pricing, the world is their oyster. It's a straight up reality. Throughout history, these hard assets have been backbone of real wealth and power. Take silver and gold. They've been used as actual money for thousands of years, way before fiat currencies ever took over. And under the current standard, which ran until about the 20th century, currencies were backed by physical gold. Give me a sip here. Good Colombian coffee, like my coffee black, by the way, if you ever meet me. I'll buy you a coffee. Meaning whomever held the metal basically dictated monetary policy and economic stability. This is, again, something I've talked about in my videos for years. Whoever controls the price of commodities controls the world, more or less, and their country should live well. We've lost that grip, kind of, right? That spike messed with industries. Remember the silver spike and everything, relying on silver, the 1980s did. When it crashed on Silver Thursday in 1980, it wiped out billions and shook financial markets worldwide. Look at OPEC with oil. They've cartelized the product to jack up prices multiple times, like in the 73 oil crisis, which triggered global recessions. Inflation spikes and shifted economic power to oil-rich nations. It's not just economics. This is like geopolitical warfare, folks, where controlling supply and pricing lets you starve out or enrich entire countries. We've seen this happen. In today's messed up world, commodities like silver act as a hedge against inflation and currency valuation because they're tangible. You can hold them, unlike stocks or digital bucks that evaporate in cash. Now, I'm going to digress here from my article here and point out one other thing, too, is, again, we could have got away with pricing commodities, COMEX. China may have not ever started Shanghai markets and other markets across the world, which are being looked at instead of U.S., being the place of price discovery, perhaps. The credibility of COMEX has just gone down so low. That's an issue. But most people would probably ignore this. But what they never did ignore and what they never did would forgive is the weaponization of the U.S. dollar, because even during the height of the Soviet, tensions with the United States, Soviet Union, and the height of those tensions, we allowed dollars to saturate into Russia. And we did that because it was a war. We wanted them to have dollar. We wanted their citizens. It was illegal for them to use dollars, but not many people are old enough to remember, and I'm certainly not that old, but they valued the U.S. dollars all across the world. Anywhere. They wanted dollars. They didn't want rubles. They didn't want the Chinese. Didn't want their currencies. They wanted dollars. Dollar was it, but we weaponized it. Not only did we weaponize it, we turned into real jerks about it too, as well, as far as wars and other things, and color revolutions and all the nonsense that happens in D.C. But again, I'm going to digress there. All right, let me move into some other things here. When fiat money gets printed into oblivion, these assets hold or even gain value, protecting wealth. Big players, government hedge funds, even corporations use future markets, all right? Stockpiling or straight up fraud to influence prices. And again, conspiracy theory people, that's what we were called at one time. But hey, listen, it's not conspiracy when one of the world's largest traders in precious metals and the official trader for the United States government, J.P. Morgan, still was fined almost $1 billion friggin' dollars for spoofing and all kinds of crazy, and they're still allowed to be in control. All right, this should tell you something. Why is J.P. Morgan still in control of markets? Because they know how to manipulate markets. They know how to work behind the scenes, and perhaps they were all part of the big plan for price discovery in the U.S. and to keep prices cheap for a long time. That includes silver. Makes sense now, doesn't it? Kind of. Maybe that's why they're still allowed to play in these markets, because they're still involved in trying to keep these numbers down. Perhaps. And then again, maybe they're playing against the U.S. government now. You can't trust them fuckers, so excuse me. Remember the 2008 crisis, global asset scarcity fueled a commodity boom, then bust, exasperating the whole meltdown and widening inequalities. And most recently, 2022, commodity prices shocked from the Ukraine war. Largest producer of grain, really, the biggest in 50 years, hiked energy, food, and costs somewhat as well. I mean, we're at war with Russia now. And that's how, it's all part of this economic war, pushing inflation and hitting poor countries the hardest, which is absolutely true because poor countries don't make price discovery. They don't create prices. In fact, they don't even own commodities for the most part. They're getting raped of their commodities. That's what happens in poor countries, all right? No price discovery, no say in anything, and they get raped of their commodities. Well, that's what empires do. All right. As far as the government influence of COMEX to keep America the price discovery capital of the world in critical commodities, ? It's all about maintaining that edge. The U.S. government, through the commodities CFTC, worthless as tits on a log, I've always said that, worthless, worthless, worthless. And in fact, I believe the CFTC is part of the conspiracy, that I'll call it, to allow U.S. government to manipulate prices, not government, but allow people like JP and others to manipulate prices, allow the banks to manipulate prices in benefit of national security and U.S., what's good for the United States, cheap commodities. That's what's good for us, all right? CFTC directly regulates COMEX. Yeah, bullshit. Which sets the global benchmarks. All CFTC does, their board, is they're going to be working for J.P. Morgan. That's like their step-up ladder to go work for these bankers once they become regulators that do jack shit. The only thing they've ever done, CFTC, is go after small little scammers. That's it. But CFTC sets the global CME, sets the global benchmark prices for metals like gold, silver, and copper, and other nationally important commodities via future trading. Other national important commodities. We're not just talking about silver here, folks. We're talking about anything that CME Group does. And once the credibility is blown in the silver markets, people are going to start questioning all their other markets, copper, if they're not already. All right, let me move on. This oversight is supposed to ensure fair market value, and prevents excessive speculation. CFTC is supposed to do that and keeps liquidity high with CME, making New York the historical go-to hub for price discovery. How convenient. Basically, the world looks to the U.S. exchange to figure out what the assets are worth in real time. And as I say here, or did is probably a better way to end this. All right. The Fed pumps resources into securing supply chains like energy department's $1 billion push in 2025 for critical minerals, processing, recycling, executive orders, fast-tracking domestic mining to counter foreign dominance, tariffs like those slapped on copper imports amid trade tensions are straight-up tools to protect U.S. pricing power, folks, right? There you go, U.S. pricing power, and prevent dumps from abroad that could undercut American markets, all right? Now, I'm going to interject here in my article and point out that, is it possible that there could go into real battles and real wars, or things could get really even messier once the idiots in Washington, D.C. figure out that the war is really not in products coming across our border or tariffs, but the war is in controlling who gets to name the price of commodities? That's the real big win, folks. And I don't think anybody in Washington, D.C., the fucking morons that they are, has figured that out. By the way, this is an R-rated show. Don't let the kids listen. And, well, okay. All right, let me move on here. But flip that coin and you've got massive national security issues. Losing the price discovery status to China and other countries, what I just talked about, it's a nightmare scenario for us. It really is. So, I mean, this is about national security, which makes me wonder, what lengths will we go to get that pricing discovery back if we're able to at all, all right? And I doubt it. Credibility is everything worldwide. And when you lose it, it's hard to get it back. But don't forget, China and any other big country, they're all governments. Chinese people are great. Americans are great. I mean, across the world, French, they're all great. It's their governments that suck, folks, and some of the corporations that run them. So if China messes up, they're going to have the same issue, and they will. Trust me. All governments screw up badly. They're all greedy, and they're all power hungry. If China already dominates production of critical minerals like rare earths, I'm saying it like Trump did, Earths, over 60% of global supply fully shifts price discovery to their exchanges, like the Shanghai Future Exchange. They could weaponize pricing through export controls, quotas, or market floods. And again, when you're able to make price discovery, you're the winner. We've seen it in 2025. China's new restrictions on rare earths, magnets threaten U.S. defense supply chains, halting productions from everything from F-35 jets to missiles. And these elements are magnets, electronics, alloys vital for military tech. And here's the key word, alloys vital for military tech. Silver. Silver is in everything. Silver and gold, actually, in a lot of these military applications. But silver isn't all of it. It's irreplaceable in every weapon, jet, you name it. It's irreplaceable right now for you to listen to me. You couldn't be listening to me if it wasn't for silver. You wouldn't. We would. All right. Losing that status means economic coercion. All right. Then I was saying losing the status, us, United States, losing status means economic coercion is possible by other countries. China could spike prices or cut supplies during conflicts, crippling U.S. industries like EVs, renewables, semiconductors, leaving America weeks away from shortages and trade spat. Bipartisan probes in 2025 expose how they do manipulate these markets. And let me say, folks, this is not, Americans would be like living in a glass house if we threw stones at the Chinese for manipulating markets, because we have been the fucking masters of it for decades, centuries, you name it. All right. So let's not get to a point where, we misunderstand this. Undercutting U.S. firms or placing blame. All governments suck. They all do. Fact. Everybody can say they have their favorite. Oh, I love my government. They all suck, man. Undercutting U.S. firms and creating dependencies that endanger national security, forcing the U.S. to scramble trade pauses and billions in investments just to stay in the game. You lose the ability to mine your own stuff. You lose your manufacturing. Okay. Lose the price discovery. Wow. All right, and that's what's happening. Bottom line is, if you dominate the pricing through supply control, market corners, or policy, you own the economic game. Folks, Washington, D.C. has been so awful. They're starting not even the past, and even the current administration is not even in the mindset that the most important thing they could lose is price discovery. And I think they've lost it. And in fact, I'm pretty sure they have. All right. You can lose mining, you can lose the ability to do that shit for yourself, commodities. But if you had price discovery in your pocket, the United States, and we did, and we have, and we did, I'm not sure, you're still in the game, but we're not. We're not. Commodities are just investments. They're real money that underpins everything else in the ongoing war. The controller feast, why the rest scramble. All right, that's my article. I thank you for listening to me for that whole thing. And where are we going to go from here? Okay, there are. I mentioned, watch that video. Really good. There's our article. And folks, new folks especially, I've been saying this for years, don't let this disappoint you. Sir, the game is rigged from the day you're born. Santa Claus, all the stories you're told, tooth fairies, you name it. The game is rigged from the day you're born. You're lied to since birth. Some good lies, some bad lies. But, the game is rigged from the time you're born. And don't let that stop you. If you don't bet, you can't win. And I've been educating my people on gold and silver markets and this manipulation for years and years. Why? Because ask any good card player. If you know how the cheaters are cheating, guess what? You can beat them. All right? And that's my opinion. I'm going to stick with it. Yesterday's video, God, two videos in a row. Gold price will fall when I got accused of clickbait for putting that up there. And by the way, whoever accused me of that, go off, F off. Try listening to the videos. The old adage, you judge a book by its cover. Too many people on YouTube do that. They listen to the first 3 minutes of the video, and then because of their ADD, they get frustrated because they didn't hear what they wanted to hear, and they're too tired to go. Anyways, gold price will fall when? What did I say yesterday? If you listen to the video, gold price will fall when central banks stop buying. They're not going to crash and go back to where they were. They're just going to steady off and hit a level when central banks stop buying. That's a fact. All right. Important to know if you're a silver player, because where is it going to stop? When is central bankers going to stop buying? Well, I don't even think we're close to that moment, and I think a lot of folks would agree with me on that as well. A shout out to all my friends out there that did comment on this video: Palpin, Tube Suit, Big Dog, Silverline, I Live in the Dream, Michael, Cool Breeze, Shep. Not a lot of comments either. Well, I'm not producing videos like I once was. And, fortunately, I don't have to. It's not income for me. My business is my income. This is an educational tool, but I've given you almost 900,000 videos. Some stuff I just repeated so many times over and over, but interesting times. So it's kind of fun to talk about it right now. All right, folks, I think I'm going to end this video up. Oh, yeah, prices. What am I paying for stuff? Don't sell. If you're calling any companies out there, coin companies, and anybody that calls us knows when people come in our store selling gold and silver for the last several years, God, since I've been open, I tell them to hold on to it, hold on to it. I can't tell you how many people I get calling me, thanking me. And I'm still saying, at these levels, hold on, folks. Hold on to it. You don't want to sell at these levels. Phone's ringing. I am closed today, by the way. Let the staff off. But and the premiums right now suck, and the buying prices suck. And the only positive thing about gold, gold, silver, Krugerrands, maples, bars, eagles, and all that stuff, the only positive thing is look at these prices. Who cares if they're getting discounted? And very few buyers out there, which I would say, you know what? You're still going to make good money buying at these levels, in my opinion. I don't think, again, I think we haven't even began to stop. And all right, I'll go into what my buy prices are. But if you're looking to buy gold, silver, and platinum, I do beat the locals out there here, the good locals too. And I beat APMEX, SDJ, and Bullion Online on buying and selling. If you want to beat people, you want to beat the good guys. That's why I don't mind mentioning their names. I beat them. And again, if you don't have a good local dealer, we are a local brick and mortar store, Commercial Rare Coins. 10 to 4 Mondays to Fridays. If you don't have a good local dealer, I highly suggest you find one, all right? And if you can't find a good local dealer, give us a call. We'll try to help you out. But we are very competitive. Hopefully you have someone near you that's competitive as well. And again, if not, give us a call. We'll see what we can do to help. That's it, folks. And as I always say, think for yourself, question authority, question all the talking heads on YouTube, including myself. And I'd like to hear your questions. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And any questions you got, you think I made a mistake, you think I'm wrong, as long as you keep it civil and you're polite about it, I'll give you polite answers and civil answers back. All right, folks, that's it. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your Thanksgiving Day weekend, because it is Thanksgiving Day weekend. And let's just take a quick peek here. Let's see, are we up or down a little bit? We're up overall, but yeah, okay. Looking good, folks. That's it. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Love you all. Bye.